Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me today for Kineo Totara office hours. Today we are going to be talking about importing completion records. So for those of you who may be not familiar with this, you're going to utilize it if you have completion records perhaps from another LMS or another Totara instance or maybe a Moodle instance. Somewhere you're going to have completion records probably for your users that you probably maybe want to document and keep track of inside of your current LMS. And so that's kind of where we're going today. A little bit about myself. My name is Taylor Craig, and I am a platforms consultant here at Kineo. So my job is I get to work with all of our clients and in lots of different ways. So I train, I consult. We do quite a few different things here with our platforms consultant role. I get to travel on site and be with clients quite frequently, and then I also get to talk to you guys online quite a lot. So I really enjoy what it is I do here, and that is my role. A little bit about office hours for those of you who don't know. I think most of you who are in attendance probably are familiar with it. But if you've never joined us or if you're just watching the recording, what we do is we have a 15-minute feature presentation. We go over something Totara. If there's something that I haven't covered in the past or I've covered it in the past and you want to see something else about that item, let me know. Shoot me an email. My email is taylor.craig@kineo.com. Send me an email, let me know what it is that you're needing to see, and we'll add that to our list and we will cover it in office hours. I'd be glad to do that. With that 15-minute feature presentation, we do post that to YouTube. Then we have about a 45-minute open floor question and discussion. You can ask any question. It does not have to pertain to the topic that we're talking about for that day. It can be absolutely anything. It can relate to your site or anything Totara, and I'd be happy to help. I don't know if I can help you in any other aspect. But that's what we do. And if you do end up wanting that full recording, please just let me know, and I will be glad to send along the full recording. We've got clients that are quite frequently requesting that now because maybe we've covered a question that they want to share with their colleagues, and so they want to send that recording off, and I can absolutely do that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what importing completion records is. Inside of the system, you do actually have the ability to import completion records. As I mentioned earlier, it can be from another system. It can be from a Totara instance. It can be from a Moodle instance. Really, we don't care where it's coming from as long as it's in the appropriate format. There's only like 4 columns that you have to include, so it's really pretty simple to utilize this. I'm going to show you today how to use it. We're going to actually run a completion record file, so you'll actually see that in action. And there are quite a few commonly asked questions. One of our frequent visitors to office hours, Kim at InterSystems, I'm going to call you out, sent me an awesome email the other day when I sent out the sign-up email, and apparently I was reading her mind. She had lots of questions about importing completion records, and so that really helped to structure kind of where we're going today with this conversation. I liked that because that helped me to organize our office hour session in a way that's going to be useful for, I think, not just her, but for the others on the call today, because kind of got some real life, here's why we're using it, and this is where we're running into issues. So one of those questions is the score required? After some testing, after some digging, I found that yes, the score is required. So if you have something that is really more of a pass-fail, give them 100, give them a 0. That's going to kind of give you that pass-fail option. Now it will pull in the word pass, I did figure out, but it doesn't count that as a completion. And really what we're looking for is that completion. So unfortunately you can't really pull in pass-fail, but you can pull in a 100 or a 0. Now one thing to keep in mind also is for your course completion you can set a grade to pass. So if you have it above that, then they get the completion record. If they're below that, then they should not get the completion record. So that's something to keep in mind. One of the other questions is, in the file, which headers are required? We'll take a look at a file. Let me just pull one across here real quick so you can see what it looks like. So this is what an example file looks like. It's really pretty simple. There's not a whole lot to it. It's the user's username. If you're wondering, okay, how in the world do I get their username? There's ways that you can go about doing that, and you can pull all those usernames out of the system. Also, sometimes your usernames are the same from one LMS to the next, just simply for your ease of use in your HRIS system most of the time. But it's going to be your username, course short name, course ID number, completion date, and grade. Now, one thing to pay attention to in this file, you'll notice that on line 2, I have a course ID number and a course short name. On line 3, I just have a course short name. And on line 6, I just have a course ID number. It really doesn't care which one it's looking for, I've found. It just wants something to identify with that course. So if you primarily use course short name, which most of you, hopefully you do, it's a required field, you kind of have to, that is going to be pretty easy for you. You don't have to have the course ID number, is what I'm finding. So to keep yourself from having to go back and backtrack and put in all your course ID numbers, just use your short name. It's a lot easier. But we'll see when this gets loaded and how it works. Next, we have our completion date. There are a variety of different formats that it will accept, and we'll take a look at that. You'll see that in action here in just a moment. And then here's that grade. So it is going to take a numeric grade. It is required. You do have to have that in there. If you leave it blank, it will, in fact, give you an error message and say that it didn't pull that record. One other thing to be aware of, guys, one thing to be aware of, I can't spell, employee, this was supposed to be employee. I must have been asleep when I did this. E-M-P-L-O-Y-E. Still can't really spell. But anyway, so we've got our Employee Healthcare Conference. That's not actually a course on my site. That was something that somebody did. We'll pretend like Mr. Stevens here completed that in an actual face-to-face session. He went to an actual conference, and we're just wanting to track that. So what it's going to do is it's going to create what we call an evidence record. And I'll show you where that's located. It's part of the record of learning. You may not have even realized the evidence tab was there because you may not have ever had a need to use it. So we'll see that in action as well. You'll notice here over here to the side I do have several completion dates. Okay. So it's going to pull in those. Now, one of the other real-time experience things that Kim submitted to me was that a lot of times they have learners who will go in and complete a course multiple times trying to hit that perfect score, right, and get that major completion. And so if they've done that in another system and you're pulling in all of those past completion records, which one is Totara looking for? So what I have found in my testing is that what it is going to look for, it's going to look for the most recent date. It doesn't care about the grade. It's looking for the most recent date. So we'll also take a look at that example. I've pulled in some stuff for Ryan Burke here. He's my user. He's completed this course 3 times over the course of 3 days, and it actually pulled in the 70 as his final completion, because that was the most recent date. Okay, so keep in mind that's what it appears to be pulling. That's what my testing has shown. All right, so let's take a look at kind of how this works and where you go to do it and why you might do it and all that good stuff. So I am inside of a different site than I normally am in. I'm in a 2.9 instance because Kim also taught me something else today. She's teaching me so much. There is a new column in your record of learning in 2.9 that will actually show previous completions. If you are on an older version, so 2.7 and before, you're not going to see that column. And so, and I can show you kind of the difference between the 2 versions. I was thinking maybe it was just a column I hadn't added. That's not the case. It's just not there. So I will show you guys where that's located, kind of how that works, so that you can see all of those previous completions. All right, so let's actually load a file in. So we're going to go to Site Administration. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see this. And we are going to go to Courses. And and we're going to go all the way down here to the bottom of the courses menu, upload completion records, and click on the upload completion records link. Okay, I want to show you a quick little gotcha. When you first come to this screen, you may see it looking like this. And basically what this is doing is it's saying, hey, where on your server do you want me to look and grab this file from? That's not what we're trying to do today. We don't have it set up for server access. Now, if you have like thousands of completion records you need to pull in, and it may take a while to run manually, submit a support ticket. We can set you up with a server area where you can FTP that to a server, and then it will pull it in once you fill in the location and all of that stuff. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you're seeing this and you want to see the other version where you can manually upload it, scroll down. It's hidden and it's in a really weird spot, but it's right here. Alternatively, upload CSV files via a form. So that's what we're going to do. We would rather have it where we can manually upload that. Okay. So let me grab my file. Let me try to remember where I put it. I should have probably thought of that a long time ago. Okay, so here it is. I'm going to pull my computer finder thingy over here to the side. It's a really technical term. And we've got course completion import. That is the one that I was utilizing. Okay, and I'm going to drag and drop that. Now, you're going to notice here it says default evidence type. So that is going to be for that particular record that we saw for, I think his name was Ray Stevens. He had a record that wasn't a course. It was just something he actually did, the conference. So that's what that's referring to. So you can actually set multiple evidence types in your system. We can take a look at how to do that and where you might do that. Basically, you can classify what these evidence types are. Is it compliance training? Is it health and safety training? Is it HR? Is it 401k training? What kind of training is it that they may have been doing? So basically you can classify it. It gives you another differentiator that you can filter based on. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. In this case, I don't have any on this particular site, but you can. Now, one thing to pay attention to is you want to know what your date format was in that file. So let me just pull this file back up. Okay, and the date format I'm using is 2, and 2, month, day, and year. One thing to pay attention to if you're building these in Excel, you want to make sure you format it where it shows 0, 2, 0, 1, 0 all the way up to 9, because otherwise it kind of freaks out and it doesn't like it. Okay, so keep that in mind. So right now I'm not using the right format, so we are going to look for that one right there, month, day, year, 2, and 2. We're going to leave everything else alone. You can override current course completions. If you do that, if the learner has actually completed it, it's going to override it, so just keep that in mind. Case insensitive short names, if you know your short names are going to not be case sensitive, you can choose to just kind of ignore case sensitivity. I'm going to upload. Okay, so I had some errors in this file. So it's showing me 2 records with data errors, 1 record created as evidence. Okay, so I've mentioned evidence, and then we have 4 records successfully imported as courses and 7 records in total. So we are going to go to our course import report and see why it didn't do something. Okay, this one is pulling back duplicate ID number. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what that error is. I haven't run into that one. So looks like it did not create A. Campbell for course name 1 and course for course short name C1. It doesn't like that ID number. All right, guys, so what I will do, since I'm not aware of what that error is, I will update the YouTube video, and then for those of you who are in attendance, I will shoot out an email once I figure out what that error is. Shoot out an email to each of you explaining what that error was, because I don't want to waste your time digging for that right now, but I will keep you in the loop and let you know what's going on there. However, if we take a look at this, we do see that the rest of this wasn't imported as evidence, but we see that this one was. So that's something to note, and we'll take a look at Mr. Stevens here in a minute. But we see the time that it was uploaded, who uploaded it, what the short name was, what the course was, and then we do see those completion dates as well as those grades. Okay, so that's what we wanted to see aside from the weird error message, which I'm going to take a screenshot of real quick, just so I don't lose it. I say real quick, and then my screenshot software pulls up like 9 different menus for me. Okay. Perfect. I'm also going to export that just for funsies. Okay. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and let's take a look as these people. Let's see kind of what it looks like to them. So we see here, I want to look at Kay Jenkins because this guy's got a couple of completion records. Well, and so does Campbell. Maybe that's why it's kicking that back. It shouldn't be. Sorry. I'm still caught up on the error message. Let's look at one of these users. So we are going to go to users, accounts, browse list of users. This is something that I want you guys to be aware of that you have the ability to do in case you're not aware. So I am going to remove that filter. And we're going to look for, we'll look for Jenkins. Okay, you're going to click on their name. This is going to take you to their profile. If you weren't already aware that you can do this, it's going to be underneath the profile, and you can access their record of learning without having to log in as that person, which is kind of nice. So you can come in here, you can see what's going on. So here what I'm seeing, I see course 2, progress on the first view, so that was the name of the course. It was C2, that was the completion. If I click on this progress, it is going to show me course was completed via RPL, completion history import. Imported grade was a 100. So it is going to let me know what happened there. He does not have any other evidence. So I would see any of his completions. I should be showing them here. So earlier I mentioned there was a previous completions column. This is the column you're not going to be seeing if you're using an older version. If you're using 2.9 and beyond, then you should be seeing the previous completions column. So right now he doesn't have any previous completions. Let's look at somebody who does. So in this case, we'll take a look at Ryan Burke. He does have 3 completions of the same exact course. So we're going to go take a look at that. So let's locate him. Underneath site administration, users, accounts, browse list of users. And we will remove Jenkins. We're going to look for Ryan. There he is. We're going to access this the same exact way that we just accessed Keith's. Record of learning. Okay, and we are able to see he did complete course 1. So that's C1, so he was in that last record that we, or in that last file that we uploaded as well. So if you look here, he's right here, 12.115. Okay, so we're able to see that. If we click on this, we should see it was completed RPL, grade was an 80. Okay. And then here for this SH test course, we see that he has previous completions. So there was more than one upload. So if we click on that too, it is going to show me his other completions. It's going to show me that he also completed this on the 9th, the 10th. He got a 60% and a 100% for each of those attempts. One thing I want you to pay very close attention to here, October 9th, 2014, he completed with a 100%. If we go back out and take a look at the completion record that it's showing me on the completed learning page, if I click on this completed via RPL, because that's the other completion, we're going to see course RPL completion history import grade is a 70. So it's a totally different grade, so it's a completely different record. Now, if we look at the file that I loaded in, you'll see that that 70 was completed a day after, or 2 days after the 9th, actually. So it's looking at the most recent date, doesn't care about the grade necessarily. So just keep that in mind when you're loading these records. It just wants a completion. That's primarily what it's looking for. Now, one thing to note, guys, this should show up on your completion reports. Now, not all of these attempts are going to show up on a completion report. It's just going to show the one that it's taking, so quote taking. Uh-oh, I just noticed folks have, my screen was locked. Has it caught up? I apologize, guys. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. I apologize. I should have been keeping up with that. I will put this closer where I can see it. Okay, so right now you should be seeing Ryan Burke, all courses, and you should see he's got course 1 SH test course. Is that what you're seeing? Okay, cool. All right, so let's take a look at the completion report that it pulls. So if we go down here and go to our site administration and reports, report builder, manage reports. Okay, there's a couple of different reports that you might consider looking at. There is a completion import report. However, it, in my opinion, doesn't give you just a whole lot of information. It does give you quite a bit, but it's basically the same report that you see after you run the completion. So for those of you who have run an HR import report and you see those logs, it's pretty similar to that. It's the entire log, so it's going to show you the line number, the errors that you may have had, imported, if it was imported as evidence or not, imported by which user, the time uploaded, and the username that it imported for, as well as the short name for the course, course ID number, and all of the completion dates and grades. The downside to this report would be that I would probably want to be able to pull this report and be able to see this guy's first and last name. Unfortunately, you don't have the ability to add that information in to this particular report at this time. However, I could see it being really cool if we could add that in at some time, because this is more of kind of an administrative log. Still would be nice to be able to see that information about these individuals. And the information is in the database, so I'm curious why it's not there, but it's not. So just want to make you aware that that particular report is available and kind of what to expect when you run it. Now, you also have your typical course completion report. Now, that is going to give you exactly what it is you're expecting to get. It's going to show you all of the course completions. However, what this is not going to show you is all of his attempts. So we know that Ryan Burke had 3 attempts on this one course. Actually, this one here, this SH test course. However, it's only showing me the most recent one. So it's showing me the final completion, which makes sense. We're just seeing the major completions here. However, if you want to see all those records, kind of got to run a couple of different reports at this time, it appears to me. So just something to keep in mind, something to be aware of, and kind of how that works. Now, one other thing I wanted to show you guys real quick was the evidence types. So I'm going to go back into Ryan's profile. I did that by just clicking on his name in the report that I just ran. We had that particular one set up to be clickable. I'm going to go back into his record of learning. And we're going to take a look at the other evidence tab. So underneath other evidence, you'll see that he has SH test course 1, 2, and 3. These are courses that maybe didn't exist in the system. And so it's pulling in the date he completed those, We don't have an evidence type in here. If we did, we would have that. If we had the institution, we would see that information, if it was in use or not. So, and then as a administrator, I have the ability to come in here and I can actually edit this evidence if I need to. Okay, so something to keep in mind, we have quite a few clients who are using the evidence type so that they don't have to create old courses again, or even have placeholders for those old courses. They're just cool with using the evidence type. There are some reports that pull from evidence. So just keep that in mind, that it is an alternative option and it is something that's available to you. Now, if you're wanting to select an evidence type, it's going to work really similarly to if you've used organization types or position types. Your evidence types are going to be located, that is underneath site administration. It's actually under learning plans, so it's kind of in a weird spot. Evidence types, and you can just add in a new evidence type. You can call it compliance. You can give it a description if you would like. Save those changes. So now when you add in evidence, let's go back to all evidence types so we can see it there. Okay, so we see this one here. So now when we go to our record of learning and other evidence, so you can add your own evidence. This is another option that you can allow people to do. You can allow them to add their own evidence as well. But you should see it now listed as one of those options, and that would be something that you could do also with the upload. The only downside to the upload is, unlike with HR import and some other things where you have a header and you can say that Ryan's is compliance and Sally's is HR management training, it's kind of an all or nothing because it's through that upload. Okay, so keep that in mind as well when you're using the upload for evidence and evidence types. Okay, so that is our import of course completion records in a nutshell. I'm going to now turn the floor back over to you guys and ask your questions, please. Any questions will do.
Today in office hours, during the clients-only Q&A time, we had a really good question come up that instead of just following up with the client, and I will do that as well, but instead of just doing that, I wanted to add this to the recording because it's a bit confusing, but it makes sense when you kind of work through it. So the question was, I have learners who will complete a course multiple times potentially, or have completed a course multiple times throughout their time on the other LMS. And I need to load all of those completion records. I want to see those previous completions. We established that in 2.9 you have a previous completions column, and you have the ability to see all of those previous completions. So if you load all of those records in, you should see all of that information. Now, if you upload those records in on a one-off basis, what it's going to do is it's going to replace what was already in there. So I want to show you something here. We've got, this guy's really good. He's completed it in the future, but I've been messing with dates to kind of see what happens here. But we've got a course completion date of October 22nd, 2016. We see that he has 7 previous completion records, and if we look at his complete via RPL, it's going to show that he got a 94. So let's look at the file. So that would be accurate. 10/22/16, a 94. That's what I expect to see as the most recent one, because remember, it pulls the most recent date. Okay, so now if we go, I'm going to jump back a little bit. We're going to take a look at those previous completions. So we see all of his previous completions here. We see all the way back to 2014 for the same exact course. So he's got lots of different completions for this course. Now, I want to show you what happens if we load on a one-off basis and what's going to happen if we load all of them at the same time, keeping the record together. So if we have this file here, and I'm going to put a more recent date, we're going to say, let's see, more recent than his most recent completion. Let's see what his most recent completion was. October 22nd. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add October 23rd. Okay, and we'll put in a grade that we'll recognize. We'll put in an 84. And I'm going to save it. Same way you always do, save it as a CSV. Okay. So what we're going to do, we're going to jump over here and upload completion records. And we're going to load that one in. Okay, we are going to leave override current course completions turned on because that's going to be checked by default. So you may not check it, uncheck it. You may not see that. So we're going to leave it how you would expect to leave it. We're going to hit upload. So what's going to tell me is one record was successfully imported, one record in total. So if I go look at my report, I see what that record is. So it was loaded. Now when I refresh the screen, I should see this change. But what the problem is this October 22nd completion record where he had a 94, you would think it would move over to previous completions. It's not. It's going to be replaced completely. So we're going to switch it. So now we see the October 23rd, but we still only see 7 completions. And if we look here and we look at our old file, we should have an October 22nd with a 94. We don't see it. Because that checkbox was checked, it completely overrode it. Now, if you'd unchecked the box, you're still just going to see your most recent date, right? So that's something to keep in mind. So now let's talk about what happens and why you kind of want to keep these records together. So if I grab the same one, same record, and I'm going to add it to the larger record with all of his completions. We're going to save it. Because we want to keep up with all of his completions. We don't want to get rid of any old ones on accident. We're going to load this file one more time, but we're going to load the one with all of his completion records. Okay. Which is completion 2. We're going to load that file. Now we see 2 records successfully imported, 5 had errors, they were just ignored, but 7 records in total. So we're going to take a quick peek, which is kind of what we expected to see, but it's loading back in that one that we accidentally replaced. So we loaded that one back in and then the new one. So now if we look at Ryan's records, if we refresh the screen here, we now see the 22nd roll off to a previous completion. And underneath completed learning, we now see October 23rd. We see that he's got 8 completions instead of 7, which is what we wanted to see. And when we click on our RPL, we see that it was completed with a grade of 84. So I think that may be what some folks are running into. But again, I wanted to just set up a little addendum to the main recording so that everyone could see this in action. In office hours today, we had an error come up. That error was this. So let's just take a quick look at it. I took a quick screenshot of it so that we could refer back to it. Duplicate ID number. So at the time, I wasn't positive of what that particular error was about or why I was receiving it. I knew that I had 2 ID numbers that were the same, but it didn't make sense as to why it was giving me an error. So to save some time during the session, we just moved on and I tested it afterwards. What I have found is if it's looking for one or the other. It wants your short name or your course ID number or both. So in this particular case, I have C1 and C1. Those were the course ID numbers. I've actually changed the ID numbers since, but it would have worked fine. The problem is that I had one already with C1. So it's assuming since I know what C1's course ID number is, I should also know what the short name is. So I did some testing, and what I was able to find, and I'll show you here, here's another file that I was running for testing. So it has nothing to do with the new course ID number. I thought that might have been it, but it wasn't. I changed the ID numbers, however. I could have left them C1, C2, just so you're aware. But I've got C1, course ID number is course 1, C2, course 2, C2, course 2, C2, course 2. And then you'll notice here on line 10, I just have course 3. I don't have the short name of the course. And it does, in fact, let me load that. However, if I was to come in and add another line here and say C3, and then leave the course ID number blank, it's going to be fine, oddly enough. However, if I was to come in and have a C3 and course 3, it will throw an error at that point, because now it knows that I know the short name. So interesting little tidbit there, just something to keep in mind, that it will give you an error if you don't have all of the information in one of the lines, but you do in another. So thought I would do another addendum here on this particular one because it was an error that did come up in the recording and I want you to be aware of it. Thanks so much. Bye.